It's a tough life being a Hollow Knight fan.
Void Heart Edition came out a whole 5 years ago, and Silksong still bubbles away in the development cauldron. Crowsworn, a Kickstarter game inspired by our favourite nail-wielding knight, has been delayed from December 2023 until who knows when. As a sure sign of the Hollow Knight hunger, it was funded over 10 times the goal amount, changing the scope of the development drastically.
What's a fan of highly stylised Metroidvanias with melancholy undertones and deep lore supposed to do in a time like this?
Did you say highly stylized Metroidvania with melancholy undertones and deep lore?
Yeah, but will you stop shining that light in my eyes, please? Ugh.
Lo, rejoice and behold, my sinners, as here is the game to treat your ills, descending from the high heavens to bestow blessings on your earthly thumbs. Blasphemous 2 opens its doors to bloody punishment and even bloodier piety, with the penitent one, that's you, my fellow coneheads, tasked to bring a city to its knees by carving through sacrilegious iconography and a confraternity of bosses in turn. And, just like a biblically accurate angel sent by the miracle itself, I am here to tell you that this special little game deserves your devotion, your exaltation, and your guilt-laden determination alike, lest you fall to the foul dark of excommunication.
Why are you talking like that?
I think I've been playing too much Blasphemous 2, Rob.
Let's reawaken at the last preview. Start again. It's hip and it is cool, is what I'm trying to say. The perfect antidote to the action platformer infection that has plagued me ever since Hollow Knight. Of course, Blasphemous 2 stands on its own two armoured feet as an absorbing game with personal style and strengths. But as a die-hard Hollow Knight fan, it is the similarities that made this a delight to discover and dive into. Both games are Metroidvanias, which is one of those bits of gaming shorthand that everyone is assumed to know. To me, it means a labyrinthine-like map, upgrades in hidden nooks, and lots of backtracking with new abilities. Or, to put it another way, say I want to go through a door on the map, but Rob won't move out of the way unless I listen to a 5-hour lecture on Final Fantasy XVI, which will drain my life force until I am dead. So I go to a different part of the Access Office map and fight an easier boss, Dave, naturally, which lets me sift through rubbish on his desk and find Ben Starr's personal phone number that I can use to distract Rob and gain access to the rest of the office. Map.
I'm going to go and ring him now, see how he is.
That's basically a Metroidvania in a nutshell, though Dave is much easier to kill than any boss in Blasphemous 2.
So there's that gets my Hollow Knight senses tingling, but there's also a pervasive sense of melancholy, a story that weaves in and out of strange NPCs and their motivations, and relentless combat that links the two games from the loftiest of divine seats to the deepest corners of Hallownest. Where Hollow Knight is creepy, however, Blasphemous 2 is violent, each an approach to death and legacy that shapes every action you take. Of course, I should say Blasphemous 2 is also a lot like Blasphemous, unsurprisingly, a game I picked up after playing the sequel and is now revealing to me all the subtle ways the sequel tweaks its mechanics to make its magic shine that much brighter. If you're new to Blasphemous, you play as the Penitent One, who's a man that wears a giant cone covered in barbed wire, presumably installed by the town council to stop pigeons from nesting there. Unfortunately though, pigeons are the least of your worries. Blasphemous 2 concerns the hunt for 3 regrets of the miracle in the sky. Regrets that hide inside the miracle's bodyguards, waiting for old Spiky Head to come remove them with impromptu surgery. It's basically an invitation to fight a host of incredibly designed bosses. Everything from a literal baby to a Teletubby with a corpse in the middle. To boil it down further, it's an invitation to get murdered again, and again, and again. Better get practicing your Latin for that exemplaris excommunicationis screen, my little disciples.
I've seen that phrase so often it is practically burned into my TV. Gives Love Island a very different energy.
But how does this game satisfy the hungry Hollow Knight fan? Well, like that masterpiece, Blasphemous 2 revels in a delicious gloom. The weight of penance, a thick, heavy blanket that swallows everything in Custodia whole. You see it in the characters you meet across your adventure, each with a sacrifice to make in search of holy forgiveness. Perhaps it's a woman slowly flaying flesh from bone with each item you bring to her, or a man devolving into sacred honey as he shares his golden goop with the Penitent One. Put me right off me breakfast. They're symbols of suffering, but there is peace in their purpose. Much how the radiance of Hallownest mutated bugs into violent husks, the miracle transforms the people of Custodia so they can repent their sins, their physical forms metamorphosing, dying, and unravelling to reach higher spiritual nirvana.
Not to cross my religious streams.
It's pretty intense, and there's definitely some chewy stuff here about the sacrifice required to ascend. But it's also kind of an excuse to unleash an unholy horror show for you to chop through as well. Enemies have succumbed to their vices, and their suffering fuels their aggression. And the sheer creativity of how these baddies come together is one of my favourite parts of this brutal experience. Men wielding whips for self-flagellating and smacking you round the cone with.
You gotta love a multitasker.
Ghosts rising up from bodies entwined in the branches of the forest.
Evil Dead, anyone? No? Just me?
Then there are church bells bound to flesh, drowned warriors sans their heads, gigantic slugs with the faces of flame-breathing cardinals. There's a cruelty to the situation that would make you pity them if they weren't just being really annoying, and a creativity to their punishment that lets your mind go wild with gruesome possibilities. It's like the orange, pustulated sickness of the bugs of Hallownest, but taking on a new gory dimension. Just how long have these people been doomed to these obviously very painful forms? How long will they be free for until you rest at a pre-due and respawn them back to their never-ending service? There's a special horror in Blasphemous 2's bestiary of cursed freaks, but I think a lot of that comes down to it being a pixel art game.
Oh, I can feel a point coming on. You know what that means.
You have just crossed over into Ash's Horror Tangent. Pixel art then. Probably makes you think of Pac-Man or that little guy from Dig Dug, though this is not the time to explore the dark underbelly of lizard inflation. Whilst you wouldn't necessarily put pixel art hand in claw with horror, there's a thriving scene of little squares that come together to make some of the scariest stories out there. Horror and pixel art share the same dream of suggestion, where the unspoken and the unseen work far harder in your imagination than simply being shown something terrible. That pixelation is used to hide or censor images is even more pertinent to this point. The infamous mosaic that pops up when Sims are using the toilet or strolling around naked only makes the whole thing feel even more salacious than actually seeing what's underneath. Push all those little squares together into the unfathomable shape of an eldritch being, or the little sprite of a Kobe Jada in Blasphemous 2, and there's a connotation of whatever horror we're bearing witness to, there's something even worse lurking out of focus underneath. It's like the saying I just made up. A pixel says 1,000 words, so you only need a few of them. You can see it in the Lovecraftian unease of Lamentum as it gets real freaky with its cursed bosses, or in the bludgeoning violence of Carrion where you tear a science facility to bloody shreds. In the weaponized nostalgia of Buddy Simulator 1984 as an AI sends you after a homebrewed pixel monster. All examples of evil wrapped in a style that's synonymous with games of yore, as well as, paradoxically, disturbing images obscured for your protection. And so it is with Blasphemous. Palatable horror on the surface, but so much more powerful through the work your imagination does to fill in the gaps.
Juxtaposition, baby. Okay, that is the horror talk out the way for now. So let's take a look at what else makes this game so captivating.
And that was Ash's Horror Tangent. Ooh. Of course, where there exist horrors, there also tends to exist big pointy implements to slay said horrors. Combat is how you pay your penance, with that uncompromising Souls-like difficulty. That's game review speak for, oh my god, how am I supposed to do this, please make it stop. Our own personal price for expiation.
Expiation?
I've definitely been playing too much Blasphemous 2, Rob.
Upgrading from the single sword of the first game, Blasphemous 2 introduces the Arsenal of Penitence, which still boasts a single sword, but now includes a giant mace that's good for clobbering, yet moves slowly, and dual-wielding rapiers that swap power for speed. You pick one at the start of the game and collect the others as you find them in secret locations across the map, with each weapon serving the secondary purpose of unlocking previously inaccessible areas. Yes, just like that. Platforms appear in mid-air, mirrors become portals, and invulnerable blockades become destructible respectively. Combining those with the 4 traversal abilities you earn on your journey makes for some wild exploration in the late game. Whilst I would love to sit and talk about every little secret and strange creature I found through meticulously working my way through each blackened corner of the map,
so much of the joy of the game comes from finding those for yourself.
I would definitely recommend using map markers to return and check everything out though, even if you think you've finished the game. Though sometimes it is tricky working out what map marker is best for a room. Should this be a face for an NPC? Or a question mark because what the hell? Whoops! Sorry, Miracle. Please don't smite me. Figuring out how to build your Penitent one around your preferred weapon is a refreshing update, with you combining an altarpiece of figures on your back for even more variety. Each figure offers its own benefits, but combining them can unlock resonances that knock it up a level. There's plenty to discover through trial and error combinations, but my favourite is a lightning bolt that appears every time I dash for an extra kick of damage while sliding through enemies' legs.
If only I had this ability when trying to get past Rob earlier, would have saved me going anywhere near Dave's disgusting desk.
You've also got your classic rosary beads, charms for my Hollow Knight pals, that can be found all over Custodia for powerful buffs. Throw all of this together with your triple-cooked weapon collection that you can upgrade with Marks of Martyrdom, and you have got an incredibly customizable Penitent one to play with and switch around should you have any trouble with the mega-sized bosses intent on turning you into holy pulp. Now, I should repeat that as much as it invokes Hollow Knight, Blasphemous 2 is very much its own beast.
And it's a beast we should applaud for how it does things differently, as well as how it fits into the wider Metroidvania genre.
It is colourful and arcade-focused, Moorish and complex, deeply gratuitous in the type of way that makes gore fans pull a stink face and go, "Phew." I've just had the best time playing this game for the way it feels so perfectly gamey, which is a stupid thing to say after all the more deliberate points I've made on its wider lore and impact, but the joy of playing something to master it, to see all it has to offer in crazy platform challenges and sprawling side missions, is not lost on me. That something can so deftly switch between this deliberation on pain and paradise to classic video game battling only goes to show how brilliantly the developers have represented the line of discordance, religious or visual or otherwise, in all aspects of Blasphemous 2. And there you have it. Blasphemous 2 is just really good, and you should play it not only if you're a Hollow Knight fan, but an appreciator of video game brilliance in all of its forms. You can do that when it comes to PS4 and PS5 on the 24th of August. Don't forget to drop this video a like, subscribe to stay notified for more goodness from the heavenly gates of PlayStation Access, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching. Amen.
PlayStation